One way I would characterize this diminishment, confusion, or obfuscation of the trajectory of care and compassion in religious traditions with regard to the natural world is, I would characterize it as technologies of care. That in the early expression of these traditions, the dominant cosmology framed the context in which a technology of care might be undertaken. And these technologies of care, literally feeding groups or organizing ways in which food is distributed, or a variety of techniques in which care and compassion are delivered to a community and to the community of life. As we entered into the so-called secular period, because I'm not entirely sure I agree with the separation from the cosmological implied by that term, but nonetheless, technologies emerged as becoming an end in themselves. And the complexification of technology suddenly moves our technologies of care in a direction apart from the trajectory that they were oriented towards in these traditions, and towards technologies as an end in themselves. So these are very critical questions, I think, in our time. How care and compassion are motivated and implemented. And one example would be the parks and the movement of indigenous peoples out of parks in the name of saving biodiversity within the plant. That's a technology of care, it seems to me, but it has problems.
Well, I think you're asking a question, though, about secularization and religion in the modern period, which, of course, a lot of people have commented on and studied and so on. But a lot of people have made those comments out of the North American and European worldview, which in Europe in particular, there was, because of many of the religious wars, I think more of a keen interest in separating religion and state. And that has been very well established in North America and in Europe. But I think the efforts to do away with religion in the former Soviet Union and in China in the 20th century, while effective on certain levels, when religious freedom was reinstated in China in the 80s and in Russia, it came roaring back. And there's a huge revival of the Orthodox tradition in Russia and of Buddhism and Confucianism, as I've mentioned. One thing I want to also just make sure we all understand here is that the traditions that have views of nature that are compatible with an environmental ethic, in the pre-modern period, it didn't mean that they didn't destroy their environment as well. So ideas and praxis, theories and implementation, or the historical record, the environmental history, we still have to examine greatly. But what I would say is that the statistics show in our modern period, 85% of the world's people are religious practitioners of one sort or another. And incidentally, many of those would be syncretic, especially in Asia, that Buddhism and Confucianism and Shinto all mingle. In Japan, you're buried as a Buddhist, but you're married as a Shinto or even a Christian, and your early rites are Shinto, and your ethics at home are very Confucian. So there's a fluidity about these traditions which have endured in East Asia, for example, and in China, as Dui Ming, the great philosopher of Confucianism, would say, the DNA of East Asian society, culturally and socially, is Confucianism. Human relations, you see, are all pretty much from a template of deep understandings of the past, how you treat your family members, how you treat those who are older, how you treat teachers, and so on. So those have endured despite the Cultural Revolution in China. And I think it's not to say that religion is an answer for this ethic of care or for environmental ethics, but it's one part of the solution that is indispensable for our understanding of science, policy, economics, education changing for sustainable development and so on. But the world's religions and ethics need to be part of this conversation, very much so.